Hi, as always, I'm Tim Hopkins, and this will be my final video presentation for my copyright licensing class, which has been wonderful, might I say, before I begin. My topic of study in the beginning of this course was YouTube copyright because, amongst other things, one of the things that I do is I create content on YouTube, particularly comedy, and I wanted to know, how to cover my own tracks and make sure that I was safe. And in light of this class, I was capable of doing that in a very insightful way. This class has been very informative in that sense. And for this final presentation, I've looked up some ideas kind of from the YouTube aspect and kind of people who didn't start on YouTube but they currently do things on YouTube. So without further delay, I'll go ahead and hop into my first case. I'm just gonna go over here to my notes so that I don't slip this up because these stories are rather intricate and very specific to themselves. So my first source of information was actually Conan O'Brien. If you know him, you know him. If you don't, look him up. He's pretty funny. He is a talk show host, which falls under the realm of entertainer. He's very much an entertaining guy, which is what I strive to be one day, as an entertainer. And I believe, it was in 2016, he got into some pretty big trouble with copyright. Almost, but it was for using jokes on his show. So basically, these talk shows, if you don't know, they have opening monologues, and normally people come out and they riff and tell jokes. And he told a string of jokes that he found from a personal blog on a Twitter account from the comedian Robert Kasberg. And this article's from Ohio State University. It's in their like library thing. So it took me a little digging to find it. But he used these jokes. I don't know if he used them verbatim or if he just kind of riffed off them. But regardless, Robert Kasberg did not like that Conan O'Brien had used his jokes, so he sued him for copyright. Now the problem with that was it was original content. It was Robert's original content, but it kind of boils down to the question of, can you copyright a joke? And further along in the article, it says that it kind of depends under the definitions of U.S. copyright law. In this particular situation, it wasn't eligible for that kind of copyright protection. So the lawsuit, even though it cost them both horrendous amounts of money, it didn't hold water. So this course has taught me to know how to be on both sides, because I don't want to be on either side of the fence. But if I'm in Conan O'Brien's shoes, I would like to know if I'm pulling jokes from Twitter or if I'm pulling jokes from some sort of forum or et cetera, is it safe to use? And do I have the team behind me or the skills myself to see if the joke is clear to use? Because you don't normally, like, if you see a knock-knock joke on the internet, your first implication isn't to or your first indicator is not to check and see if it's a copyrighted joke. It's just a string of words. So it's really weird to think that before this class I would have never even thought about it. Reading that article would have been incredibly confusing to me, and the idea of them going to court over it would be asinine to me, because why would you sue someone over a joke? But had he gone about it the right way and had the right team behind him, he could have won that, and Conan O'Brien would have been out of a lot of money. So on the side of Robert, I would say he should cover his bases better, understand his licenses better, and if he wants a particular joke copyrighted, then he needs to make the right steps to do that. But obviously, he didn't take this class. My second source of material comes from an actual YouTube related situation that happened a few years ago. I did not get the date, apparently, at least from what my notes tell me. But it was a few years ago. These YouTubers, it's a collaborative channel. The channel's called H3H3. They do specifically, or they used to, now they do a podcast. But when this case is relevant, they were doing like channel reviews, just kind of making memes out of people who do silly things on the internet. That was their whole shtick. And they used this guy, where's his name at in these notes? Matt Haas, that was right. They did a commentary, which is, by the way, if you guys haven't been paying attention, commentary, if done correctly, is governed by fair use. Cut and dry. But they criticized one of his videos for the sake of comedy. satire to be specific. And he didn't like it. He didn't like that they used snippets of his video. They didn't like that they used his jokes. The same with the Conan O'Brien situation. And he pursued them for a long time. This court case lasted for a long time. And it literally boils down to fair use won the day. The judge had to deem it fair use, but seeing that it wasn't defamatory, it wasn't criticizing him in any way that is harmful to him, and it was not a deliberate, like, full rip-off of his video. They dissected it, and the steps they took were fully within the realm of fair use. Even if you have a basic understanding of it, you can see. And it's pretty interesting to think that, I had an idea of what fair use was before this course, but then you go back and you watch the videos that kind of gravitate this case, and it makes a lot of sense that he had there was no flooring for him to stand on in terms of this case, because it's clearly commentary, it's clearly satire, and I don't know, it's pretty crazy to think that you could sue someone over a YouTube video. Now, given if they had ripped him off completely, or defamed him, or done one of those things that fall within something you could pursue someone for, that's one thing. But copyright's a powerful tool. I said it in my other presentation. Copyright is a very powerful tool, that and Creative Commons. So I've been following that. A lot of this, my presentation that you're seeing now, I'm sorry I'm looking over my notes. I just want to make sure that I speak all this in order. So far it's going well. I wanted to do court case in specific because it feels like these copyright situations always go into it. And a big part of this course for me specifically is learning what tools I have at my advantage to keep me away from a courtroom potentially one day. So if I decide to do stand-up and I tell a joke, is my joke safe? Is it original or is it ripped? If I try to do a commentary video on YouTube, is this fair use? Am I using Creative Commons appropriately? Am I falling within all the parameters of the license that I'm going for? So I wanted to study that specifically. And then the last news source that I studied to add on to my my previous presentation, along with these two court cases, is I looked up in the AmericanBar.org, which, if you ever have questions about like law stuff that isn't specific, I would recommend using these guys. They're really cool. But AmericanBar.org navigates you to, if you look, there's a section for entertainment law for people that aspire to be entertainers like myself. And there are entire firms of, they're usually newer lawyers, but there are entire firms dedicated to making sure that entertainers are protected and have protection from the sake of using those jokes, or making the wrong commentary, or pursuing the wrong person in a commentary or satirical situation. So there are organizations that are specific towards entertainment. Outside of musicians, I wanted to be very specific with that, because we talked mainly about musicians and people who write music, publish music, record music, etc., etc. It's very music based, which is fine. It's a pretty good general blanket for the topic of study, but I wanted to get into entertainment in the side of performing, so I looked into that. So this is for like specifically, they talk about comedians a lot, because comedians are not necessarily as much at risk as, well, I can't say that either. I don't know. This part of the project is off the cuff, but in summation, I find that personally, after taking this course, I want to make sure that I have a legal team behind me who knows these rights, these laws, these copyrights, and how I can monitor them carefully. But I myself am glad that I have a good baseline for these things, and I know what some of these things mean. So if I ever have to get into this situation, I know what I'm looking at. So I hope I filled the parameters of this presentation appropriately, and I'm glad I got to do it, because it put a pretty strong backbone into my previous project. So I'm glad I pursued this this on the court aspect a little bit farther. But the MCA is a beautiful thing if you look at it in the right light, of course. Fair use is a beautiful thing through and through if used appropriately. Creative Commons, always beautiful as long as you follow the rules. Creative Commons can be wrong. You could be wrong. But Yeah, this was great. I'm glad I got to do this, and I hope you enjoyed my last little tidbit on this project, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Thank you very much.